Today I am making a peach cobbler keto style. And I am so excited to be doing this today because I haven't had a peach in about 2 years because I've been very concerned about the natural sugar in a peach. But I read an article today that said peaches are keto. So I am going to try my hand at making this peach cobbler. So right now I'm going to cut and peel 3 pounds of peaches, and I will go forward with the rest of the recipe. My mom ordered these peaches from one of those online companies, and she called me to say she had them, and at first I was refusing them. And then I said, figure out a way so that you can have at least a slice of peach. And that's when I did the little research and found out that I could actually make a peach cobbler. So I'm going to keep cutting these peaches until I get to 3 pounds. Then I'll get right back at you. I have cut 3 large peaches. They are ripe and delicious. So I will now mise en place the rest of the ingredients. For this recipe, I'm going to be using the following. I need a 9-inch round pie dish. So I'm going to measure everything out now. So I have my pound of peaches. I'm going to be using 2 tablespoons of sweetener. I'm going to use 1/4 teaspoon of the xanthan gum. So I'm going to be mixing those 3 ingredients to make the peaches. And to make the biscuit, I'm going to need 1 large egg at room temperature, 3/4 cup of almond flour, 1/2 cup of coconut flour, 1/4 cup of the sweetener, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of either coconut oil or melted butter. And I'm also going to be using 3/4 cup of heavy cream. You can also use unsweetened almond milk or coconut cream at room temperature, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. The 9-inch pie dish is going to be greased with, I think I'm going to use coconut oil. And I don't advise you to use a bigger dish or else maybe your biscuit mix may not be enough. And if you use a smaller dish, the biscuit mix will take too long to cook. So I'm going to get to it right now. I'm going to mix 1/4 teaspoon of the xanthan gum. And the xanthan gum is used as a thickener. It is not necessary for this recipe, but not using it might make the syrup a little watery. I'm also using 2 tablespoons of the sweetener. What I'm going to do is kind of mix the xanthan gum with the sweetener. And hopefully it will spread. So if you decide not to mix it together, make sure you shape the xanthan gum evenly across the mix. So all I'm doing here is just mixing the peaches, the xanthan gum, and the sweetener. And I'm just going to set this aside. I have my 9-inch pie dish, and I'm using organic coconut oil. And I'm just going to spread it around the sides and the bottom of the pie dish. And I'm going to just set this aside. The next thing I'm going to do is just arrange the peach slices around the bottom of the dish. And remember, the peaches have had the sweetener and the xanthan gum added to them. So they're actually going to be macerating a little while I prepare the biscuit base. So you want to put them in pretty much a single layer. To get all of the slices in. So now I'm just going to go and prepare the biscuit base. For my next measurements, I am going to measure in grams. I'm going to use 84 grams of almond flour, which measures out to 3/4 of a cup of almond flour. I like to use grams because they're a lot more accurate. So I'm going to measure out 84 grams. And then I need 55 grams of coconut flour. And I'm going to need 28 grams of my sweetener. I also need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So I'm just going to use regular measurements for those. And I also need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Never measure your salt over your mix, just in case too much falls out. And I also need 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Just going to mix this together. So I have my heavy cream ready. I'm going to add to that my egg at room temperature. And I I'm going to also add in 1/4 cup of coconut oil. So I'm going to add my liquid mix into my dry mix. Make sure that you scrape any dry ingredients from the bottom. And I'm just going to add this biscuit mix onto the top of the peaches. You could just use a spoon. I'm just going to use this cookie scoop. And I don't think you need to be so neat about it. This is just me. After I get all of the biscuit mix onto the top of the peaches, I'm going to bake it for about 35 to 45 minutes, and I'll meet you back here. The cobbler is hot out of the oven. It smells so delicious. I guess my scoops will help with serving size. And as soon as this cools off, I have some whipped cream, and I am looking forward to having a taste.